So I want to begin with a little bit of humor to get us started. There is a priest, a pagan, an atheist, a rabbi, and a unity minister. And they decide to take the weekend off one weekend, and they go for a hike in the forest. So they're hiking along a wonderful path in the backwoods, and they come across a big old giant burning bush. It's engulfed with flames, and out of the bush comes the voice of God. I am that I am. Well, the priest immediately goes looking for the biggest stone he can find because he knows he's going to get the next 10 commandments and write them down. The pagan pulls out his sage and starts calling in the directions from the south, the ancestors from the south. The atheist starts digging through the ground to see if he can find the propane tank and the tape recorder because it's all a big sham. But meanwhile, while he's doing that, the rabbi is running as fast as he can the other way, exclaiming that the last time my people listened to a burning bush, we were lost for 40 years. The unity minister very nonchalantly pulls out a bag of marshmallows and tries to figure out how he can sustain the fire long enough so his congregation can show up with the graham crackers and the chocolate and they can all have s'mores together. So you want to have some s'mores with me today? You know, I have an acronym. I'll repeat it at the end of the talk, but for s'mores. Spiritual manifestations of reproduced efforts. Spiritual manifestations of reproduced efforts. I'll talk about being regular a little bit later, but being consistent in our spiritual practice. But today is the third talk in a three-part series, a Faith in Action series. And I want to recap the first 2 weeks because some of you weren't here for those 2 weeks. Did I mention about reproducing efforts and practice? But I want to recap a little bit. Week 1, we talked about faith in a vision and looking and finding a dream of our heart. A dream and a vision of a greater experience and expression of God that was manifesting through us and as us. And we gave 3 steps towards the manifestation of that dream. First was to begin to ask the questions of a visionary. Begin to ask leading questions that cause you to go deep. Question what you have believed before. Question what you have said was true before and allow new visions. Allow the Spirit of God within you and as you to reveal a new idea. The new mark with which you were going to be reaching and achieving in your life. And then to do that is step 2, to take on the mindset of keeping your eye single. Keeping your eye on the ball, or as we talked about in Noah's Ark, one window in the roof, keeping our eye towards God. Not allowing the human distractions, the human things that want to pull us off course of achieving that vision and that dream, to keep my eye, my heart centered upon God. And know that with God, all things are possible. Not just some things, but all things are possible. And then third, based upon that single vision, is to take a step. Get off your butt, get off the couch, and do something. Take a faith-empowered step and action. And by doing so, as we understand in unity, that your faith is the shaping substance of you, of the power to shape God. By taking a faith-empowered action, you are activating God to be made manifest in your life. You have started the process of manifesting the dream and the vision by giving God direction, giving the universe, the substance of life itself, direction by taking a step. Then last week, we said, well, what are some of those steps? What are some of the steps that we can take? We talked about spiritual investing in our spiritual path and not just having a spiritual hobby. And we did the ABCDs of spiritual investing. The A, the assets that you have. And we did an exploration of realizing that each of us has been given spiritual gifts far greater than our bank accounts. Each of us have been given spiritual gifts, and we are encouraged to invest those spiritual gifts. And so a consciousness began to develop that we are more than we've ever given ourselves credit for. We are wealthier than we've ever been allowed ourselves to think we were. That we had a treasure trove, the kingdom of heaven that was expressing in us and as us. And these gifts are our most valuable asset. Invest them. And then we went to a place of budgeting. Believe it or not, budgeting. Examining where are the leaks? Where are my spiritual gifts leaking out? And where are they paying dividends? And adjust my focus accordingly. Doing the budgeting of spiritual living, of spiritual path, releasing the leaks, releasing the drains, the energy vampires, and turning my attention and focus to where I am receiving dividends for who I am. For the thoughts and ideas that I am holding, I am now receiving, and I turn my focus towards that as a budgeting process. And then C, I craft a strategy. So we have assets, the A, the B, the budgeting, C, craft a strategy. And we use the example that my dream, let's say California, represented my dream. I want to get from Georgia to California. I have to do something. And what we talked about were the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. 3 Buddhist terms. We know, first of all, have to know the vehicle. How am I going to get from where I am to where I want to go? I need the vehicle. And that is the Sangha, the spiritual community. We are the vehicle for each other. We are the very energy field of community and family that will take us from point A to point Z. And you can't do it showing up every 6 to 8 weeks. I know people that come about once every 3 months and say, I don't feel spiritual community. Well, there's a reason. It takes effort. We are the vehicle. Get in the car. Get in the car, get in the bus, and drive with us. And then interview. Talk to people who have made the journey before. Surround yourself with manifestors, people who have seen dreams achieved, people who have realized greater expressions and experiences of God. Go talk to the Buddhas in your life. Go find the people who are operating at a higher vibration and hang out in their energy field. And then we had the Dharma. You know, this is the rubber meets the road spirituality. We say many paths, one God. Well, there are many ways to get from Georgia to California. There are many roads. There are many freeways. Choose the one that works for you. This is the teaching. This is the Dharma. And then with a map, you don't look at a map one time and put it down. You highlight it. You study it. You travel with it. You refer to that map often. That is your teaching. You see, at Unity North, we are not about spiritual hobbies. Some of us may be, but we're about growing, and that means a spiritual practice, a regular practice, not a spiritual hobby that's when it's convenient. I know I'm speaking to the choir because you're all just enlightened beings, and I get to be in your presence. So these were the investments, and then the D was diversify, to understand that God is everywhere. And so I am called to invest my spiritual gifts everywhere. Everywhere, not just at home, not just at the church, not just at my job, but to shine my light so brightly that the world is a brighter place because I am diversifying where I am sharing the gift that I am. And most importantly, we ended with the diversification of knowing that God is our source. Not our job, not any particular relationship. God is our source. And where do we find God? Everywhere. God is everywhere. So be reaping the dividends wherever you happen to be, at the gas station, at the grocery store, in those alone times, at that party with the people you really don't want to be spending time with. There are dividends to be paid there. Receive them. Have the eyes, the ears, the mind, the being to say, there's good here, and I'm going to find it. So we're going to expand upon those first 2 weeks today. And we're going to follow up with the questions of a visionary. Questions that say, how do I keep the fire burning when I'm down and I'm tired and I don't want to do it anymore? How do I keep the music within me playing when this dream and this vision just isn't happening? I've been doing the investments. I've been doing the prayer. I've been doing the meditation, and it's not here yet. The job isn't here yet. The car isn't here yet. The house isn't here. The bank account isn't here. The relationship isn't here. Anybody else come to that place on your spiritual path? And you wonder why. Does it really make any sense? You come to a crisis of faith. I think it's part of the human journey. We all come to that place. And it's the hero's journey. And the hero's journey calls it the abyss. Sometimes calls it the dark night of the soul. Today I'm going to liken it to the Red Sea. The Jewish people fleeing 40 years in the desert, crossing the Red Sea. That's an obstacle. The Goliath, my friend Peter, who I talked about last week, talks about the Goliaths in his life. Talks about the lion's den, those moments when it doesn't appear to be working. And we get really frustrated, don't we? We get upset and we get angry. Well, I want to offer you 4 steps, 4 different keys to keeping the fire burning when you're in that dark night of the soul. When you get up in the morning and you think, I can't take one more step towards that vision. I've given everything I have and I'm weary and I'm tired. 4 E's to keeping the fire burning. In your program, your bulletin was a sheet if you'd like to take notes to follow along. I encourage you to do that. E number 1, examine your attachments. Examine your attachments. Sometimes our attachments to physical reality are the very obstacles that are keeping that dream from manifesting, keeping that vision from manifesting in physical form. And inevitably, the hero has to come to a place of understanding at a very deep place. Am I attached to a physical demonstration, or am I attached to a spiritual revelation? Am I attached to a spiritual state of being, or am I attached to some kind of piece of cheese at the end of the maze? It's important we ask these questions. Because when you're anchored to a physical reality, and this will show up in your prayer life like no other place in the world. If I'm going into a place of prayer with the sole purpose of manifesting the new house, I've anchored myself to the 5-sensory world of illusion, to matter. God is not of matter. God is not of the chair, the body, the experience, the bank account, or the relationship. I've anchored myself, and it becomes the very wall that keeps that vision from manifesting. So we need to go to a deeper place. On the spiritual path, the hero inevitably comes to the place of realizing, I want the experience that the car represents. I want the feeling that the house represents. I want the experience of God that will manifest itself as thousands of things out here. But as long as I am reaching for those things, I will never attain them. I need to reach inward. You see, physical attachments to the external reality are anchors, and they are anchoring you in the human world. Internal attachments, as opposed to external, are anchoring you to God, to the very substance of life. And many times in life we use the term, I will believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it. And I've found in my life that when I can flip that to, I will see it when I start to believe it, suddenly the dream manifests without push, without shove. It's easy and it's graceful. But many times as spiritual people, we put the cart before the horse. We think the goal is the bank account. We think the goal is the paycheck or the job. And the reality is the goal is to know God. There is one purpose for your spiritual life, as taught by Unity. One purpose for your prayer life and your meditation life. It is to know that you are one with the divine essence of life. And everything else will organically happen. So you want to keep the fire going. Examine if you are attached to the physical manifestation at the end of the journey. Because that physical manifestation is like water on the fire of your dream. I am attached to knowing God. I am attached to knowing that I am more than physical reality. You know, we try to manipulate God, don't we? Anybody use a prayer trying to manipulate God? Just give me the house and I'll believe in you. Give me the job and I'll believe that these principles are true. The dark night of the soul is losing a call. If we can stand back from it, we can realize it is a call for a greater expression internally, a greater abundance. And we begin to wake up, I'm already wealthy. It hasn't shown up in the bank account yet, but everything is created twice. I've said this throughout the whole series. First in mind, first internally, first in spirit, first in being. And then let this take care of it. Let God take care of this. Do you have peace? Whether the bank account is full or empty, do I have peace? This is what we need to know. Then this will take care of itself. So that's our first E. That's our first kindling for the fire. Let's go to our second E. Embrace your humanness. Embracing your humanness. So don't we have a human egotistical problem of beating ourselves up when it doesn't happen? I've done the investments. I've done the prayer. I've done the work. I must be doing something wrong. Dixie manifested her dream. Barbara manifested her dream. Why isn't mine happening? I must be something wrong with me. This is the ego at its finest. The human ego is at its finest. I've given everything. See, it doesn't work. Quit wasting your time. Quit praying. Quit meditating. Quit working the principles. Your human ego is just throwing a parade if you buy into it. But I'm going to liken the human ego to an animal. When is an animal at its most dangerous? When it is threatened, when it is cornered, and when it is hurt. Well, guess what? You've set a new direction. I want a greater experience of God. The ego does not understand the spiritual realm. The ego is like an animal that's going to go, he's leaving me behind. This isn't right. Let me tell him he's failing. Let me tell him he's a loser. Let me tell him that it doesn't work. And so when you are in the state of hearing that mind chatter, it's a really good time to step back, just like you would an animal. Give it some space, and with a heart of compassion, embrace, oh, little human being, oh, little ego, I have compassion for you. I'm not going to get near you. I'm not going to give you my power. I'm not going to enter into your field and allow you to attack me. But I'm going to notice as a dispassionate witness, this is very interesting. My ego is really, really active right now, and it wants to tear down. It wants to tell me that I am in breakdown. But let me tell you, breakdown is usually an indication that you are one step. You're really, really close to breakthrough, to breaking open, to breaking through, to breaking free, to breaking open. And guess what? In that moment, your ego is at its finest because it's a cornered animal. It's an angry, hurt animal, and it's going to show up. So perhaps we can step back from things and have a new mindset as we examine the thoughts that come up. It's your failure. It's not working. You're breaking down. We can find a place of compassion, embrace the humanness, and say, isn't that interesting? When we acknowledge that those things are there, we don't pretend that they're not there. There are philosophies that teach that. It's not hot, I'm not in hell, and I'm not here. The reality is, you acknowledge the human experience. We're in a human experience, and not everything's going to work the way you think it should. It feels disappointing. I feel upset. I feel angry. I feel a sense of loss. I feel like I'm not making a difference. I step back from the human ego and go, there, you will be okay. Let me give you some space. Let me shed some light. Let me shed some love on that human emotion, and know it does not define you. And by doing so, a softness emerges, and it becomes tinder and kindling for the fire of the vision, because it stirs hope, the divine hope, the idea of hope. It also stirs within the animal a sense of strength, a sense of escaping the human reality. And it gives us the divine faculty of strength. Charles Fillmore said there are 12 gifts of humanity, the 12 powers of mankind, 12 ways that God shows up in us. Strength is one of them. That's your ability to persevere. You don't get to that faculty by fighting against and pushing against and attacking it. You get there by being soft and allowing and opening up. What is the lesson here for me that I can learn from these human ego things? So that's our second E. Our second E. So we have examined our attachments. Oh, and you know what? And we have embraced our humanness. By doing so, we remove the idea of perfection. Anybody feel, I'm a Virgo, perfection's a big thing in my world. I have to do it right, and if I don't do it right, I've failed. The reality is, perfection is an unattainable concept humanly. It is absolutely attainable spiritually. And so we need to go after perfection spiritually, but get rid of the human need that there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. Take a step, God will make the corrections. So we have examined our attachments, we've embraced our humanness, and now the third E for kindling. Emphasize your wins. We are programmed as a human race, the race consciousness of humanity, to focus on what isn't working, especially in this Western mind. And that's basic unity teaching, focus on what is working. And it may feel like a little sliver of light. You may have had the worst possible week last week than you've ever had. But Wednesday at 2 o'clock, between 2 o'clock and 2:05, I had a moment of peace. Maybe it was between 2 o'clock and 2:03. I knew God. I knew all was okay. And Gail called me and reminded me that I am making a difference. And then back to the human world. Focus on what is working. And I like the analogy. When I was a Boy Scout, any Boy Scouts in the room? They gave you a couple of sticks. Here's a couple of sticks. Here's a rope. Go make a fire. Yeah, right, really. And the first time you went out there and you tried to rub the sticks, you tried to get the rope wrapped around it and move it around to get some heat, it was difficult. It was arduous. And you wanted to give up. I remember that moment as a scout, going, this isn't working. This is not possible. Your human ego, being the caged animal or the cornered animal, is going to tell you it's not possible. Don't give it any time. But as a scout, you're taught to persevere. You're taught to have strength. You keep going and you keep going. Maybe it's a flint and a bunch of leaves. And it takes sometimes 40 minutes. 40 minutes, I'm going to give up. And then the spark hits. And you get a little bit of heat in the sticks. And it begins to heat up. And there begins to be movement. And you give everything you are. Nothing exists in that moment except, come on, all my attention and focus on the heat. There is a heat within you, and it may not be manifesting out here, but there is a heat within you. Don't give up on it. Focus on the heat. Focus on the small spark that might catch those leaves. Focus on by giving it language. Go talk about it. Go talk about what happened last Wednesday between 2 and 2:03. Don't go talk about what happened Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Focus on last week on Wednesday. I got to spend some time with Allie Doodle, and I felt like life was just happy and joyous and wonderful. I'm going to give my language, my feeling, my thoughts, my attention, and my focus to that moment of experiencing God. That's unity principle, basic unity principle. But isn't it easier to gather an army around us that will support us in our victimhood? There's no shortage of people in my life that I can go complain to that they'll sit there and listen to me for hours. Oh, yeah, give up on the fire. Put the sticks down. Just go get a match. Go get a butane lighter. It's not worth the effort. It is worth the effort. Tend the fire within. It will eventually manifest in the external. So how do we do that? Let me give you a couple of ways that I do it. I focus on the moments where I knew God, whether it be in prayer and meditation or in a relationship. I knew God in this moment. I'm going to tell everybody about it. That's why I highlighted Allie Doodle. Every time I'm in her presence, I know God. I don't think she ever gets upset. I don't know. But the reality is I'm going to focus on that. I knew God in 30 seconds of conversation with her. Good. I'm going to go tell everybody. There's Shana, Cana, the warrior princess, I call her. You know God when you're in her presence. I'm going to highlight that. And I may have seen her in the hallway on Sunday morning for 30 seconds. Hug, how's it going, Shana, warrior princess? Hey! And I walk on. Then I go out to lunch. I'm not going to get engaged in the complaining. I'm going to get engaged with, have you met Shana? Oh my gosh, she is God personified. I'm going to focus on it. Number 2, I'm going to keep a journal. Anybody have a file of things that work in your life or a journal? I have a file that got me through some of the darkest nights of my soul. I get cards all the time that say, thank you for what you did. You're making a difference. I appreciate you. There are days when that's all that's going to get me up and get me going. I go open that file and go, wow, in 2004 I made a difference to Julie Bonniger. Wow, I'm going to hold on to that. I'm focusing on what is positive. I'm focusing on the good, how God is working in my life. And then I need to begin to recognize, and this is a deep spiritual practice. It may not be manifest out here, but you are a different person. You have changed on the inside. Everything is created twice. First inside and then outside. And guess what? The change is happening. Gurgling within you is a new idea of who you are, a new awareness of your wealth, a new idea of how you can be peaceful and quiet no matter what's happening out here. No matter if there are 600 people sitting in the chairs or 4. I don't give my power to that. I give my power to the warmth and the fire that is within me, and I recognize I'm not the person I was when I started this journey of manifestation. I'm not the same person I was when I had that initial vision. I asked the question and got a vision of what was possible for my life. I'm no longer that person. They're back there. There has been movement within. Praise it. Praise it. Praise the new attitude. Praise the new habits. Praise the way that you are showing up as the light of the world. A little bit brighter than you were 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 15 minutes ago. And then cosmically, change happens on many different levels. If we're changing within, cosmically we are changing the whole. There is no private good on this planet. We are a part of a collective that is the one. And we have raised the vibration. So begin to look at how people are showing up around you. Your dream may be manifesting. My dream may be manifesting in Jay Schofield before I ever see the bank account, before I ever see the realization in physical form. He and I are relating at a different level. Cosmically, we're making a difference, and we are growing together. There's more joy. There's more happiness. There's more tolerance. There's more acceptance. Cosmically, look around and praise how God is showing up everywhere, 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 and then reap the dividends and be willing to share the spiritual gifts. So, the final E. So we've examined our attachments, internal or external. We've embraced our humanness, given space to the wounded animal that is our ego. And we've emphasized our wins. And I believe the step that needs to happen where most of us don't realize anything in our life, it is the step of echo, 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 echo. Do it again, and do it again, and do it again. Week 1, we highlighted one of the stumbling blocks to manifesting in our life. It was spiritual laziness. Plain and simple. I'm not willing to do the work it's going to take for that to happen. I built that fire. As a Boy Scout, I built that fire. Guess what? Next time I built a fire, and I did it right away, I went home to show my parents. I reproduced what happened there. Now I can sit down with a couple of sticks and a rope, and I can make a fire in a matter of minutes. Didn't take 45 minutes or an hour because I reproduced it. I made it important enough to do it again and again and again. So I'm going to echo the moments. I'm going to echo the relationships. I'm going to echo the thoughts. I'm going to echo the feelings. I'm going to echo the strategies that worked to get that 3 minutes last Wednesday. What did I do differently there? I'm going to echo it and reproduce it this Wednesday, maybe even this Monday and Tuesday. It reminds me of the story of the bamboo. There's a very sacred bamboo in Chinese culture, very beautiful bamboo. And if you tend this bamboo and you water it and you nurture it and you give it fertilizer and you tend it and make sure it gets sunshine, in the first year, it's going to grow a whole whopping 1 inch. But that's okay. You be consistent. The second year, you tend it, you water it, you nurture it, you fertilize it. It's going to grow 1 inch. And so on for the third year and the fourth year. Along about the fourth year, we've quit on the dream. Your ego has won the battle saying, give up. The principles don't work. It's a waste of time. It's never going to manifest. The job's not coming. Just give up. The fifth year, it grows 1 inch. The sixth year, 1 inch. Your friends begin to tell you, give up on your dream. You're wasting your time. Go do something else. The seventh year, and I think it's important to recognize that metaphysically, 7 represents the energy of as long as it takes. You nurture it for 7 years. In the 7th year, that bamboo grows 40 feet. 40 feet. Look it up. I looked it up to make sure that my facts were straight. It is absolutely true. 40 feet. But how many of us give up on the dream and the vision the 3rd or 4th year? It's not working. I'm in the dark night of the soul, and I am on my hero's journey, and I quit. Forget it. What does this mean to your spiritual practice? And this is my final point with this whole series. It means consistency. Consistency to your spiritual path. It is key to your success. Consistency will be the fertilizer, and the water will be the sunshine that will allow whatever vision you had at the beginning of this journey to be made manifest. What does that mean? You know, inconsistent environments never pay off. You cannot grow a 40-foot bamboo with an inconsistent environment. You can't grow a vision and a dream in an inconsistent environment. If you pray once a day, pray twice. Pray 3 times. If you pray or meditate once a week, do it 4 times. Do it 5 times, because your inconsistent environment is working against the manifestation of your dream. That means regular prayer, regular study, regular meditation, regular reflection, regular attendance, regular volunteering, regular tithing, regular participation. It means regular thoughts. It means regular feelings. It means regular habits. Here's my dream for everybody at Unity North Atlanta Church, that we all get a little bit more regular. I think sometimes as spiritual seekers, we need a little bit of spiritual metamucil. We need a little bit more fiber. We need to be a little bit more regular and quit being, I'm going to call it out, the spoiled Western culture mind that says, I want the magic pill, just give me the pill, doctor, and make it go away. It doesn't work that way. Give me the magic pill, and suddenly I'm enlightened. And suddenly every dream I have is manifesting there before me, and I don't have to work at it. It doesn't work that way. You have to work a program. It is a spiritual practice, not a spiritual hobby. As I said, s'mores. My joke at the beginning was about s'mores. Spiritual manifestation of reproduced efforts. If you want a dream, you're going to invest the time it takes, the energy it takes, the meditation and the prayer it takes to make it manifest. If it doesn't, oh well. You have a nice hobby. I'm challenging this congregation. I'm challenging myself. I'm challenging each individual to know that the pathway to your vision being made manifest, as Joseph Lamb put it, leads through the valley of humility. And the path is up the ladder of patience. And it is across the wide, barren plains of perseverance. And as of yet, no shortcut has been discovered. So my last question for each and every one of you, as my final challenge for this series, is I've got the marshmallows. I'm waiting at the fire. Who's going to show up with the graham crackers and the chocolate and let us build something magnificent, holy, and sacred? Who's going to help me realize God? Who's going to allow me to help you realize God more fully in your life? Namaste.